There'll be another card April 20th on Fox. You're not just a Showtime guy, you guys are worldwide, global, doing big things. Talk about the card April 20th.
It's a tremendous card. Obviously, we're here for the workouts. I love seeing guys on this kind of platform. It's the biggest platform out there that the guys have access to, and what a great night it's going to be Saturday night.
We go back to last Friday. Obviously, Lomachenko called out Tank Davis. You responded. What's that like moving forward? Because you said they know what to do.
I'm not concerned about anything anybody else is doing. We have a great plan for Gervonta Davis, and we're going to put him in the biggest fights possible, and he's going to make the most money doing that. And he will be the biggest star in the entire sport. And I'm going to keep saying it. We know what we're doing.
And he just said on Instagram that you guys got the dates. We care more about the opponent. Any word on?
No,
it's
a lot of names that are out there. When we're ready to wrap that up, we will. But again, star power. That's what the sport needs. If we go back in the days of guys, that's how you become a star. Fighting on platforms and with the opportunity to cross over in the sport, and that's what our plan is. The more attention is brought to the sport, the bigger the sport is. And that's why we have our vision is big picture. And oftentimes in this sport, most of the other entities, they think about what's going on right now, and we're 2-3 years down the road. I know what he's going to be doing. He's 24 years old, and in short time, he's going to be the biggest star in the sport.
Leonard, with those 3 years down the road.
No, I didn't say 3 years down the road. Meaning, I'm saying as it relates to planning. As it relates to planning.
Well, I guess in those plans, will we see a pay-per-view fight with Gervonta Davis? I feel pay-per-view opponents right now, at least, are Lomachenko, Mikey
That's
Garcia.
what you think.
That's what I'm saying.
When you become a star, and the kind of star that we're going to make into Gervonta, all his fights are big fights. As you just saw in his last fight, when you have that kind of star power, the ability to put asses in the seats, celebrities coming out. That wasn't just his first fight. I heard some stuff out there about that. I mean, you go back to when he fought on the Co in Barclays. Back up January with Badu Jack. When Badu was in the main with we had almost 11,000 people in the building, and that's when he fought Pedraza. Okay, then we come right back. We go to England. He sells out Copper Box, a little over 10,000. Then in August, can't really talk about that because that was Mayweather McGregor. Then we come back. We saw what he does at Barclays again. 14 was on him and AB fought. 14 and some change. You look at the ovation he got on the come out. You know what it is. Tank is a ticket seller. He's a box office draw, and he's going to be the biggest star in the sport. And he'll be able to cross over and do lots of things that no other fighter will be able to do because he has a connection with what's going on in the world today.
You talk about crossover. We saw Deontay Wilder on the Final Four. We've seen him on some of the late-night talk shows. Are you guys going to make a push PR-wise to get your fighters into those positions in the outside media? Then a bunch of guys will accelerate.
Well,
put them on some major programming.
As it relates to the Final Four, who was the first person to do that?
He announced his contract on that day.
Floyd Mayweather. Okay, those are the kind of things what we call thinking outside the box. And speaking on Deontay Wilder, all roads lead to him. another big major star. Everything as it relates to the heavyweight division, it's got to come through Deontay. What he's speaking is the truth. He's going to be the biggest guy that's there as it relates to when it comes to making money. Everybody got to come see him. He's the man.
Have you spoke to him since this thing with Big Baby happened?
No, I haven't.
How do you think he feels about it?
I can't really speak on what somebody else thinks. It's just it's an unfortunate situation. I had a conversation a little earlier about it's unfortunate. You know, fuck off an opportunity like that. It's just unfortunate. It's a bad look for the sport. This is not good.
The welterweight division's in the spotlight this weekend. We got Carson, California. We got Madison Square Garden. How do you see Amir Khan versus Terence Crawford Saturday night?
It's a good fight. Great deal of respect for both fighters. Should be a good win for Crawford. I think he wins in convincing fashion.
Leonard, Bob said last week that if Crawford were to get the victory against Khan, that his next call is going to be Al Heyman to get the Spence Crawford fight done. Do you?
He said what?
He said his first call is going to be to Al Heyman to get the Spence Crawford fight.
Okay.
I guess I was going to ask what's your reaction. You just start laughing.
I really don't really have a reaction. What does that mean? I mean, it's like.
Is that not the first step to getting closer for that fight?
Well, I don't know. Earl has business to take care of right in front of him. I mean, do I have to name the guys that are right there in his house, in his stable, that he can make a fight and he ain't got to call nobody and argue with them? We all know what the problem is. I ain't going to call it a problem because it's not a problem that I have. It's not a problem that Al has. That's their problem. They cannot deliver a big fight for Terence Crawford or Lomachenko. That's what it is, period and point blank. So all of this masquerading around, talking about I'm going to do this and that's just Bob just doing Bob. And it's okay. He's a great promoter and he's made a great living and built a great company by doing those kind of things. But that shit is old. This is, that's prehistoric stuff. I mean, the yelling, screaming, ranting, and raving, that shit don't mean nothing in 2019. Nobody's even listening, other than the 10 or 12 people that's right there in front of them. I mean, the fighters have a voice, they have the platform, and they're very, very intelligent. So you can't even trick the public anymore with any of that nonsense. I mean, he knows what it is. He knows that a Crawford-Spence fight is not getting ready to happen anytime soon.
Is it a business?
Errol Spence has a plethora of options right in front of him, one by one by one. And I mean, we're going to see how all this shit shakes out at the end. Danny feels as though he's the best welterweight. He lost 2 close decisions, obviously, to Keith and to Sean. Sean thinks he's the best guy that's out there. All this shit's getting ready to show up sooner than later. If Terence happens to be the last guy standing, I'm sure eventually that's what it comes down to. Those 2 guys will fight. But in the immediate future, what's going on right now in 2019, Errol Spence has a number of options. He's a boss. Each and every one of the welterweights, they think they're the best. We soon going to find out who is the best. Terence Crawford thinks he's the best, but the difference is Terence don't have those options. And it's unfortunate. I feel bad for the kid. He's a nice guy, a great fighter, but it's just, it's just unfortunate that he's not going to be in any of these big fights in the immediate future. Because I know what the plans are for these guys that I just mentioned, and Manny Pacquiao in that mix too. These guys are going to be fighting each other. They're all big fights. I mean, we've seen Keith on big platforms doing 5 million, 4.2 million, whether it be CBS or NBC. We've seen Errol Spence on Fox. I think it was Fox. He did 6 million. These are big platforms that the guys have options, and the fights are right in front of them. They don't have to argue with nobody about nothing. It's one phone call. They're talking to the same guy. and that's Al.
So, Mike, I guess my question is, you said he does have all these options, which I want to see all these options. Are we going to see these options by the end of the year? Because like you said,
Well, I wouldn't say the end of the year because it takes time to make fights, but I think this year you will see these guys mixing it up. I mean, you'll see Earl in a big fight with one of these guys in his very next fight. You'll see Manny Pacquiao in a fight with somebody. You'll see Keith Thurman in a fight with somebody. You'll see if Danny wins, you'll see him in a big fight. Where's Adrian at? If Adrian pulls off the upset, you're going to see him in the mix. Again, getting back to Granados. Granados was talking to me a while ago about fighting Keith Thurman. You know?
With all these matchups, potential matchups, you could potentially have the welterweight in a stranglehold, the welterweight division in a stranglehold for 4 years, maybe even 5 years, just with those names by themselves if they fight 2 times a week.
I wouldn't call it a stranglehold. I mean, it's just business.
Would it be a business strategy to lock Terence Crawford out of that?
No, nobody's looking to do any of that. I mean, he's a tremendous fighter who we all have a great deal of respect for. This is business. These are fights that we can make right away. And ain't got to argue with nobody about nothing. And they're all big fights. Every last one of them. Don't get blinded by the screaming, the yelling, the ranting and raving. That's just because it is what it is. That shit is old. Nobody's even thinking about any of that. I mean, you look at these guys, all the guys that we're talking about, and you look at Errol Spence. He just come off of a big fight with Mikey Garcia. Is there something wrong with fighting in front of 47,000 people in Cowboy Stadium? Doing 400,000 homes, making a shitload of money, raising your profile? Is anything wrong with that? In Mikey Garcia's case, okay, he dared to be great. He came up short. He's still a tremendous fighter who has countless options. And oh, by the way, he's his own boss. Do you honestly think that, I heard somebody sent me something, said something about a conversation about that he was talking about making Mikey and Lomachenko. Okay, well, what do you think Mikey got to say about that? This is the same guy that you went down through the situation with, that Mikey's his own boss. And I applaud him for that. See, the problem is now, it was a two-man show before. It was a two-man show before. And the fighters weren't knowledgeable enough about the information. Fighters are smart. And guess what? And guess who paved that way? Floyd Mayweather. He showed these fighters that not only can you be great fighters, but you make a shitload of money doing it. And the business model that he put out there, it doesn't necessarily work for everyone, okay? But it's a business model, and these fighters aspire to be great, but they also aspire to make a shitload of money. So these fighters looking at the options, and they say, what is the biggest options that I have out there on the biggest platforms? And they ain't got to talk to nobody. We're getting it done. These guys are making record purses across the board, each and every one of these fighters. But again, Floyd Mayweather paved that way. These fighters need to thank Floyd Mayweather, and a lot of them do, is again because he changed the game. He changed the entire dynamic of the game. I mean, we can go back, we can look at. That's why I say, I know what I'm talking about when I say Gervonta Davis is going to be the biggest star in the entire sport. We can flip this thing back. We can go. So we're in 19 now. Let's go 12, 13 years back. If I would have sat here and told any of you guys that Floyd Mayweather would be the biggest star in all of sports, he would be the highest paid athlete in the entire sports, you'd have told me, get the hell out of here. Each and every one of you would have said that. But he believed. We believed. We came up with a game plan to make that happen. We had a great team. Me, Al, and Floyd, Kelly Swanson, our lawyers, John Hornauer. We all had a vision. Floyd's immediate team, everybody was working towards one goal. And that was for him to be TBE, for him to be the biggest guy that's out there in the entire sports. And that happened. Not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3 years. Again, a boxer. So when they say that, oh, you can't do this and this is not happening, no, don't tell me about none of that bullshit. I mean, it's like we have promoted the biggest fights ever. It's a fact. And the same guy we're talking about, in 2 of those fights in the last 5 years, his fights have grossed over $1.2 billion in 2 fights. In 2 fights. Don't tell me nothing about making no fucking stars. And we don't know what we're talking about. Next question.
Is it announced yet?
Yeah, it's Wednesday.
It said Wednesday,
right?
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Hey, Leonard, do you think it's all psychology that the other companies are using by putting down PBC boxers?
That's actually a great question. That's not my MO. That's not my MO. I'm not into trashing people. Anybody know me? I'm going to respond if you cut into any one of my guys. I'm going to respond. I'm going to come at you, and I'm going to come at you, and I'm going to come at your juggler. That's how we get down. But I'm not into. Don't do this. Don't buy this fight. Don't. I support all fighters. When I say that, I mean I'm in the sport. I'm a fan. Same way I think Canelo's a great fighter. I think any of the other fighters. I think Lomachenko's a great fighter. I think Crawford's a great fighter. But when you get to trashing other companies, I'm just not with all that. I'm just not, because it's like where we're from. It's like you don't have to do that. Your shit's gonna shine if you're the cream of the crop. And you're the best at what you do. Guess what? It's gonna be seen. You don't have to go and trash somebody else to get what you need to get done. Plan. What we do, we stay working, but we're working smarter and not harder now. Before, we was working our ass off around the clock. We're working smarter now. We're outsmarting everybody, outsmarting the competition. That's all it comes down to. You're not going to outsmart us at every angle, every turn. We eat, sleep, and drink this shit all day. While they out at dinner parties and hanging out and doing all this other shit, we strategizing.
Why do you think it seems like more PBC fighters have their own promotional companies, and it seems like other entities don't? Why is that not promoted outside of PBC on a consistent basis?
Well, it takes time if you're talking about in the internal fighters. I mean, because again, these fighters aspire to be great. They've seen Floyd set the blueprint that anything's possible, and it's not necessarily going to work for every fighter. I'm not going to sit here and lie and make that up and say that that's going to work for every fighter, because that's not the case. But what he did is he led by example, and he showed you anything's possible. I can recall him saying, "Oh, I'm gonna be the first fighter to make $100 million." A lot of people laughed at him. They laughed at him. He didn't do that shit one time. He did it on more than one occasion. A couple $100 million in a couple fights. You know, so anything's possible when you aspire to be great, when you aspire to think outside the box. And that's what we do differently. We think outside the box. Everybody thinks for right now. Not everybody, but some of the guys out there think right now. And we 2-3 years down the road right now.
Leonard, what's your top 3 pound for pound?
Terence, Crawford, Canelo.
So now, they have to kid.
Because they want us out of here.
I don't know who I would say next.
So people have Usyk up there.
No.
No, why not?
No, I'm gonna say he's an excellent fighter. He's an excellent fighter. Yeah.
Gold medalist.
Okay. He's an excellent fighter, who I have a great deal of respect for. But I don't think he's top 3 pound for pound. That's just again, this all this is it's all subjective. You know what I mean? It's people's opinion. That shit right there, again, that legacy is everything, but also that paper is too. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, let them guys fight for all of that. My guy's gonna get paid. This is a whole new generation, and again, these fighters are smart. I applaud them for that. They've done their homework, and that's the problem right now. That's the problem right now, is that with some of these promoters, but name specific, the fighters, they have issues because fighters have the information. You know, and again, you know, in the past, it would just been a couple guys who were controlling the sport, and that's not the case anymore. That's not the case.
You're not saying that legacy, the money is more important than legacy, are you?
No, what I'm saying, they go hand in hand. Let's not twist my words. They go hand. Legacy is everything in this sport. But some fighters aspire to make a bunch of fucking money, and you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I ain't mad at them, you know, because when you look back at the fighters from back in the day, you know, those guys, I've talked to quite a few of them. They're like, man, I wish I was around now fighting. Do you know how much money I could be made? And we would love to be working with you guys. And, you know, but again, it's that times change. The generations, they evolve. You know, people mindsets change.
The platform and the money's changed.
Yeah, it's changed. And that's great. It's great for the fighters. The fighters are winning. The fighters are winning, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Can I ask you this? When you negotiate with other companies, say your company A is your company A promoting company B. Mm-hmm. Does everybody know everything in the contract with company A and company B as it relates to where the money goes, or is it so fans can understand that?
Well, the fighters understand, because I can only speak for what happens at Mayweather Promotions and for the PBC. The fighters have the information. Al gives his fighters the information, and he gets them the most money that's possible that's out there. And the same with me and Floyd, what we do on our side. You know, we've gotten all our guys opportunities. That's one thing about Mayweather Promotions. We're gonna get you an opportunity, and it's up to the fighters to kick the door in.
The U.S. is, or boxing, business in general is all about markets. Do you think it's a fighter's market right now with all the competition between networks? And does that mean that it's more beneficial for fighters to kind of shop and pick and choose who they want to fight under?
Well, again, I'm not going to tell anybody to go sign with this guy and go sign. I mean, again, the fighters have the information. They can make informed decisions based on the information that's available, and they've been making great decisions, because at the end of the day, if you're a young fighter, there's two things you're looking at. You're looking at making money and visibility. Okay, why not have both as opposed to one? That makes sense, right?
If I could bring this back to the welterweight division, because it's really hot right now, and it's big, and you guys happen to have the majority of the welterweights in the division, how long do you see this being able to last? And could it potentially, with the level of all these guys, be a golden era of the welterweight division, kind of reborn?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, these are all big fights. Again, if Keith is fighting Manny Pacquiao, hypothetically, that's a big ass fight. If Earl is fighting anybody, that's a big fight.
Right, Rigo.
If Danny Garcia is fighting anybody, that's a big fight. If Adrian pulls off the upset, he's in the money pot in this conversation about all these other great welterweights. You know, it's a great time to be a fighter in general. Again, you know, I'm not into trashing other companies and saying, you know, because I have a great deal of respect for each and every promoter out there, and it's just competition. I never take any of this shit personal because I don't think this guy's a better promoter than me. This guy, that's just my personal opinion because my style is different. I don't have to go out there and trash this guy and say this to get something done. I mean, because at the end of the day, your results speak for themselves. And I'm not the kind of person, that's not my personality. I can recall my mother, it was some years ago, I had made a comment, when my mother, she's deceased now, I made a comment and said something that was not so nice. And she picked up the phone and called me. Don't you talk about that man like that. He's an older gentleman and you gotta respect, that's just the mindset. That's how I was raised. You don't have to go about doing that. I mean, and those are some of the things you see other promoters do. I don't think you have to do that. I think you have to go and try to make the biggest and best fights for the fans. And that's what it's about. But also having a plan. You have to plan. And it's not my fault, it's not Al's fault, it's not Floyd's fault. If you're consistently getting outmaneuvered, do your job.
Do you guys get kind of nostalgic though with this market of welterweights that you have? And see, because the way I kind of see this is it could be something a little bit special that we haven't seen.
It is special.
Since maybe like the 80s. I mean, we had the Mayweather era, but Mayweather was just a little bit after De La Hoya, and then him and Pacquiao didn't come together to the end. We didn't really have a plethora of welterweights fighting each other like we're about to within the next couple of years. With the production quality that Fox has put together with the pieces, with all this, do you think this could really be built to something that's going to last for decades?
Listen, you brought up Fox.
It looks good.
The biggest platform out there right now. We know that. Fox is bigger than ESPN. We all know that. ESPN is another great platform. They've done a wonderful job with getting the visibility for their fighters. But you have to understand, they're in a different kind of business because obviously, it's all content at the end of the day. But getting to your question, when it comes to Fox, we use a hypothetical. Is that a bad thing that a fighter has access to well over 110 million homes? Is that a bad thing? And he crosses over because he's on that platform and is bringing much more visibility to the sport, and you're doing your thing on a platform like that. Can you imagine? And you have the ability to connect to the fans. Can you imagine what that leads to? And that's how these fighters look at it. They're looking at two things. And if you're looking at it any other way other than legacy and money, then something's wrong with you. That's just my opinion. Some fighters choose to, they make ignorant comments that they'll fight for free. I don't know no fucking fighters that fight for free. Let them fight for free. We're not doing nothing.
You put Canelo number 2, so a lot of fans would look at that and be like, "Oh, wait a second. Why, in your opinion? I know it's your opinion. Why do you have list your reasons why you have Canelo number 2 pound for pound?"
Canelo's a beast. I have a great deal of respect for him and the whole Mexican culture. What he brings to the table. He's a badass. I know firsthand. I know what that loss did to him mentally when he lost to Floyd. He was fucked up for a minute behind that, and he got it together. But one thing I like about him, he's willing to fight anybody. He's willing to fight anybody. And he's gotten better with each and every fight. You notice that? He's got better with each and every fight. And it's a lot has to do with his, he has some good trainers. They've done a good job with putting him in fights. Golden Boy's done a good job with putting him in big fights. But he's delivering. He's delivering. He can fight his ass off. Again, you won't find me hating on none of these fighters. That's something I'm a fan of the sport, and I respect them all. I don't give a shit what company you with. I'm not in the business of going to try to steal somebody else's fighter. I respect the promoters in their situation with their, it was some comments about that somebody made something about Ryan Garcia coming to our fight. So fucking what?
So how do you see the Jacobs fight, in your opinion?
It's a tough fight. It's a tough fight. It's a tough fight. I'm gonna watch it. Tough fight.
Break it down for us, though. Who,
I can't break it down.
you don't think either or has the advantage style-wise, or
Both are very good fighters. Both are very good fighters.
you think? I don't know. Give me a little bit more, like style-wise. Like you're familiar with Canelo's style. You're familiar
Yeah.
with Danny's style. Like I'm just trying to get like
It's kind of hard for me to
people's
break.
perspective.
It's kind of hard for me to break it down. I really have a personal opinion about it, which I'll keep to myself. I got a great deal of respect for both fighters. It'll be a good fight. A good fight.
Does it end in a decision, or do you think someone on either or?
I think the
will
fight. It's
be
a
a
great
knockout?
fight. It's a great fight. I don't know how. I don't know how it'll end. It's a great fight.
I think Danny's coming.